Welcome to The Debate. And if you are watching us over on the NFL Nexus channel, thanks so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and let us know what you thought in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, make sure to become a channel member too. You get all the exclusive content and perks, so just click that join button below. We'd love to have you.
For sure. So today, we are looking squarely at the Atlanta Falcons. And frankly, a massive roster-building dilemma that is staring them right in the face as we head into this 2026 NFL season.
Yeah, it's a huge pivot point for them.
Exactly. I mean, the Falcons just secured their passing game, right? They handed out these massive, fully guaranteed extensions to tight end Kyle Pitts and wide receiver Drake London. But now, they have to make a decision on the actual engine of their offense, which is running back Bijan Robinson.
Right. The guy making it all tick.
Exactly. So, with limited cap space remaining and, the running back market exploding yet again, the central question for our debate is this. Should the Falcons proactively reset the running back market by extending Robinson right now? Or should they exercise strict financial caution, given the inherent injury risks of the position and some pretty glaring needs on their defense?
Which is a very real concern.
It is. Now, I represent the position that the Falcons must extend Robinson immediately. His unique dual threat production represents a glaring market inefficiency that, it entirely justifies handing him a record-setting contract today.
And I take the opposing view here. When you look at the harsh reality of an NFL salary cap, guaranteeing massive money to a high-usage running back.
Even one as good as Bijan?
Even him, yes, especially right after you just committed, $136 million in combined guarantees to 2 pass catchers. It's a dangerous misallocation of resources. It is a strategy that fundamentally threatens the structural integrity of the rest of the roster, no matter how talented that running back might be.
Well, let's start with exactly who we are talking about here, because Bijan Robinson isn't just a running back.
No, he's definitely more than that.
Right. He is the undeniable focal point of Atlanta's offense. And securing him before his price tag climbs even further isn't just smart. It's essential. Look at ESPN's recent survey of NFL executives and coaches. They just ranked Robinson as the undisputed #1 running back in the league, edging out Jahmyr Gibbs.
Which was a close vote, but yeah.
But the 2025 production backs that up perfectly. He gave you an elite 1,478 rushing yards. But crucially, he added 820 receiving yards and 11 total touchdowns. But here is the core of my argument, right? Extending him now isn't just a reward for past performance. It is the exploitation of a market inefficiency.
Okay, wait, I got to stop you there. How exactly is paying a running back top of the market money a market inefficiency? That sounds like an oxymoron.
Because you have to compare it to the wide receiver market, which has completely lost its mind.
Well, you're not wrong about that.
Right? Look at the Indianapolis Colts. They just handed a 4-year, $114 million deal to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce! That is a guy who surpassed 1,000 yards exactly once in his first 4 seasons.
Yeah, the WR numbers are getting pretty wild.
They're absurd. Teams are so desperate for passing production that they are paying Tier 2 and honestly Tier 3 wide receivers north of $25 million a year. So paying a game-changing, pass-catching running back like Robinson a market-resetting $25 million annual average value, surpassing Saquon Barkley's $20.6 million benchmark, is actually incredibly efficient for your cap.
If you look at it purely in a vacuum, maybe.
But you are acquiring elite rushing production and Tier 1 receiving production in a single roster spot for the price of a borderline WR2.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend Bijan isn't a unicorn. He is spectacular, but you are isolating his production from the ecosystem of the team's balance sheet. We have to look at the unforgiving math here.
Okay, let's look at the math.
The Falcons just handed a 4-year, $141.5 million contract to Drake London. They gave a 3-year, $54 million deal to Kyle Pitts. Atlanta's estimated salary cap space is hovering around a mere $28 million right now.
Sure, but...
Let me finish this point, because handing out a third massive contract to a running back in that specific financial environment is reckless. It's like a tech startup burning every last cent of its venture capital on front-end developers while the servers are actively crashing in the background.
But that's exactly why you do the deal now. The cap mechanics...
Hold on. Let me finish the thought on his current contract, because this is where the leverage actually sits. The Falcons possess incredibly cheap, absolute team control over Robinson right now?
For the moment, yes.
He carries a highly manageable $6.987 million cap hit in 2026 and an $11.323 million fifth-year option in 2027. And we cannot just ignore the physical toll. He logged 366 touches with heavy usage across the 2023 to 2025 seasons.
Which is what you want from your star player.
But committing long-term guaranteed money to a back taking that many hits in the A-gap at just 24 years old, that is a monumental risk.
I see why you think the risk lies in paying him, but let me reframe how we evaluate risk in modern contract negotiations. The risk of waiting actually dwarfs the risk of extending him early.
How do you figure?
We are looking at a booming running back market right now. Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, they are all driving the price up as we speak. Think of this like buying real estate in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Hear me out. If you know the property value is going to skyrocket over the next 24 months, waiting to sign the paperwork is just a failure of foresight.
I have to jump in there. Are you seriously comparing a running back to real estate? The running back position is not real estate. Real estate does not tear their ACL in training camp.
Okay, obviously it's an analogy.
But it's a flawed one. Real estate doesn't suffer from cumulative micro-traumas after 366 car crashes with 250-pound linebackers and a highly concentrated window. The market might be going up, sure, but the historical depreciation curve of a running back with heavy usage is a downward slope that almost never forgives the team left holding the bag.
But you're ignoring how a contract extension actually functions mechanically against the cap.
Am I?
Yes. If you extend Robinson today, you aren't just dumping a $25 million cap hit onto this year's books. You give him a massive signing bonus right now, putting cash in his pocket, which prorates over 5 years. His 2026 and 2027 cap hits stay incredibly low, giving you that exact flexibility you're worried about losing.
Right, but the bill always comes due.
But the heavy money doesn't kick in until years down the line, when the salary cap itself will have expanded significantly. Isn't the cost of waiting inherently more dangerous? I mean, the cautionary tale is staring the Falcons right in the face with the New York Giants.
The Saquon Barkley situation.
Exactly. They slow-walked their best offensive weapon. They prioritized other spending and eventually watched him leave in his prime to win a Super Bowl with a division rival. Atlanta cannot repeat that historical error.
See, I don't buy the Giants parallel at all.
Why not? It's the exact same scenario.
No, it's not. The situation with Barkley was fundamentally different because the Giants had not already allocated $136 million in guaranteed money to their primary pass catchers at the time. They were just dysfunctional. Atlanta is just cap-strapped.
But they still lost their best player.
Leverage is what matters in an NFL front office. Why would a general manager willingly surrender 2 years of immense financial flexibility? You say the cap hits can be smoothed out with a signing bonus, and that's true in year one. But what happens if he gets hurt?
You can say that about any player on the roster.
But especially a running back. If he gets hurt, all that prorated signing bonus money accelerates onto your future cap as dead money. You are actively locking in the risk.
The risk is mitigated by how Kevin Stefanski is actually utilizing Robinson in this new offense. We aren't talking about a guy running ISO dives 30 times a game, taking unnecessary punishment.
He's still getting a hit on every play.
But if we examine the mechanical philosophy of Stefanski's scheme, it relies entirely on the specific distribution between what they call the three-headed monster of Robinson, London, and Pitts.
Right.
Last year, that trio combined for 520 touches, over 4,100 scrimmage yards, and 19 touchdowns. They each captured roughly 20% of the team's target share. Robinson's 820 receiving yards were only 99 yards shy of London's total.
He's a great receiver, I've admitted that.
He isn't just a running back. He is the structural cornerstone of the entire offensive architecture.
But how does that change the physical toll? He's still getting tackled by the same guys.
It changes the geometry of the defense, which changes how he's hit and who is hitting him. In Stefanski's play-action and RPO-heavy system, Robinson's dual-threat capability puts linebackers in an absolute mathematical bind.
Okay, lay out the math then.
Think about the pre-snap motion. If you empty the backfield and motion Robinson into the slot, the defense has to declare their intentions, right? If a linebacker bumps out to cover him, they have just vacated the A-gap, leaving a lighter box for a quarterback draw or a quick slant.
Sure.
If the linebacker stays home, Robinson is now mismatched in space against the 210-pound safety or a slower base linebacker. It is lose-lose geometry for the defense. You aren't paying a traditional bruiser. You are funding the cheat code that makes the rest of the offense function.
Well, yes, they form an incredibly productive trio on paper, and the geometric advantage you're talking about is real. But building an offense that top-heavy is structurally fragile.
How is it fragile if it's producing 4,100 yards?
Because you are concentrating an unprecedented percentage of your salary cap into exactly 3 skill players. The glaring vulnerability in a heavy play action and RPO system is that it is entirely dependent on 2 foundational elements: incredibly accurate, split-second timing from the quarterback, and a consistently clean pocket.
Which they've been able to manage.
So far. But if the quarterback play falters, or if the offensive line regresses, because you literally could not afford to pay premium guards and tackles to block for this trio, investing all this money into 3 skill players becomes entirely useless.
You're assuming the offensive line is just going to fall apart, but they have decent young pieces on rookie deals.
I'm assuming that when you allocate your money to skill positions, you eventually have to cut corners in the trenches. That's just cap reality. And furthermore, if you rely so heavily on Robinson as the engine, you invite defensive coordinators to adapt.
What are they going to do?
You invite them to stack the box with 8 or 9 defenders, actively diminishing his efficiency. You are paying a premium for a player whose efficiency will inevitably drop as defenses simply force the ball out of his hands and dare someone else to beat them.
I'm just not convinced by that line of reasoning, because the idea that defenses will just continuously stack 8 or 9 men in the box completely ignores the presence of London and Pitts. You can't just stack the box in a vacuum.
You can if you're willing to play aggressive man coverage.
But if a defensive coordinator commits a safety down into the box to stop Robinson, they leave themselves exposed to single high man coverage on the outside. You are now leaving a cornerback on an island against a 6'4" wide receiver in Drake London, or giving up a mismatch nightmare to Kyle Pitts running down the seam.
Right, assuming the quarterback has time to throw.
That is precisely why the trio works. They protect each other's efficiency. The financial commitment to Robinson ensures that defensive coordinators never have a mathematically correct answer. If you take away the run, London beats you over the top.
Again, that assumes the offensive line holds up long enough for those deep seam routes to develop. But let's take your premise. Let's say the offense works perfectly.
Which it mostly has.
It still brings us to the hidden costs of this exact team-building strategy. When you commit your cap space almost entirely to one side of the ball, the other side hemorrhages. We have to look at the defensive side of the ball to see the real-world consequences of this top-heavy spending.
The defense hasn't been that bad.
The Falcons currently field the 15th ranked pass defense in the NFL. They are dead average. And because of their severe cap constraints, Atlanta is being forced to rely on undrafted free agents to play incredibly meaningful snaps in big moments.
Okay, but every team has undrafted free agents contributing. That's just the reality of a 53-man roster in the NFL.
Contributing on special teams, yes. But look at Natrone Brooks. We are talking about a 5'11", 175-pound player who is primarily a special teamer. He has just 15 career tackles and 288 kick return yards.
He's a developmental player.
Yet, because the Falcons fundamentally lack the funds to acquire established, veteran defensive backs, defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich is being forced to cross-train Brooks at nickel and safety just to field a complete secondary.
Ulbrich knows what he's doing.
When you pay a running back $25 million a year, you are implicitly accepting that 175-pound kick returners will be tasked with tackling guys like George Kittle or A.J. Brown in the open field on critical third downs. You are creating a massive physical mismatch against your own defense.
I have to push back firmly on that characterization of the defense. Defensive versatility is exactly how modern NFL teams afford elite championship-caliber offenses.
By playing undersized corners at safety?
Strategy.
It's calculated until he blows a coverage rotation in January.
But that's the beauty of Ulbrich's zone concepts. In a cover 3 or quarters-heavy scheme, You don't necessarily need a $20 million lockdown cornerback on an island. You need players with quick processing speed who can properly pass off routes in zone coverage.
You still need guys who can tackle.
The NFL salary cap is a zero-sum game, right? You have to find value somewhere. By identifying and developing versatile, low-cost assets in the secondary, the franchise allows itself to funnel premium financial capital toward a transcendent, game-changing offensive engine like Bijan Robinson.
I just don't think it's sustainable.
Brooks learning to play nickel, boundary corner, and safety gives the defense tactical flexibility on the cheap. You actively hunt for bargains on defense precisely so you do not have to compromise on the elite offensive talent that actually dictates who wins in the modern NFL.
But there is a breaking point. There is a limit to how much you can stretch those low-cost assets before the talent deficit is just too large to scheme around.
Have they reached it yet?
I think they are dangerously close. It is one thing to find a hidden gem. It is another to rely on a patchwork secondary in a league entirely defined by elite quarterback play. The NFC is loaded with prolific passing attacks.
Which is why you need to score points.
If your 15th ranked pass defense gives up a 75-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter of a playoff game because your cross-trained 175-pound safety got bullied at the catch point, it will not matter how elite your running back is. You are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's a bit dramatic.
It's reality. And in this scenario, Paul plays the most statistically replaceable, physically demanding position in the sport. The value over replacement player for a running back, even one as phenomenal as Robinson, simply does not justify leaving your secondary completely exposed. You can find 80% of Bijan's rushing production in a third-round draft pick for a fraction of the cost, and use that $25 million to sign 2 starting-caliber cornerbacks.
But you can't find 80% his receiving production in a third-round running back. And you certainly can't replicate the geometric stress he puts on a linebacker. That's the crux of my position here.
I understand the theory, but the math...
The math supports extending him if you look at the total offensive output. Securing Bijan Robinson with an immediate extension is the most logical, proactive step the Atlanta Falcons can take. It capitalizes on a unique, dual-threat efficiency that effectively bundles elite rushing and Tier 1 receiving into a single, cohesive contract.
A very expensive contract.
But it proactively prevents a market-driven bidding war that will inevitably inflate his price tag a year from now. And it cements the essential core of Kevin Stefanski's play-action offense. Finding those defensive bargains, like we discussed with the secondary, is the necessary and entirely acceptable trade-off to maintain this specific kind of offensive superpower.
Look, I hear your point on the geometric stress he puts on a defense. I really do, but my stance remains rooted in the holistic view of roster construction. While Bijan Robinson is undeniably a spectacular generational talent, the timeline you are proposing and the financial philosophy behind it are deeply flawed.
Flawed because it's aggressive?
Flawed because sacrificing your future salary cap flexibility, taking on the massive injury risk with prorated signing bonuses, and inherently neglecting a middling defense, all to pour record-breaking guarantees into a high-usage player at the sport's most physically punishing position, is a dangerous team-building strategy. The Falcons have the leverage of his rookie contract and the fifth-year option. They must use that leverage to protect the overall integrity of the entire roster, rather than rushing into a deal just because the market is shifting.
Well, I think where we absolutely converge today is on the undeniable reality of Robinson's talent. There is no question between us that he is the focal point and the primary engine of what makes the Falcons' offense tick.
Absolutely, no argument there.
Our disagreement really centers on the mechanics of the salary cap, the timeline for his extension, and, the broader philosophy of how much cap percentage a team can realistically dedicate to the running back position while still fielding a competitive defense.
Agreed. It just highlights the extreme, almost impossible difficulty of NFL roster construction. It isn't just about collecting good players. Every dollar spent is a dollar withheld somewhere else, and every decision carries cascading consequences across the depth chart.
Exactly. As the 2026 season unfolds, the Falcons' handling of this specific financial puzzle will be a fascinating case study in modern front office architecture. They built this highly concentrated offensive core, and now they have to figure out how to keep it together without the rest of the roster collapsing.
It's going to be really interesting to watch.
There is certainly much more left to explore as we see how they balance the ledger in the coming months. But until next time, Thanks for joining us on The Debate.